Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform. Today we have a very special segment of our Operation Freedom briefings. It's a continuation of our dissection exposure of what happened in Benghazi, the cover-up, in particular the stand-down. On our platform, Operation Freedom, we recently had an interview with Charles Woods, the father of Ty Woods, one of the 4 victims of Benghazi. It's still available on the platform. It's free, of course, on YouTube. Just hit Operation Freedom when you go to YouTube and dial in that interview. We got tremendous feedback from a number of different sources about that interview. That interview exposes what occurred in Benghazi, and in particular, it focused on the stand-down. Since that interview aired on YouTube to the general public, and that was from the, if you will, beneficence of our subscribers. It was on our subscription platform, and our subscribers demanded that we get that information out to the general public, which we did. A number of folks came forward, whistleblowers, that were active players in when Benghazi went down. And they said the official story that's being told is false. The public needs to know the truth. And in this particular interview, which we again put on our subscription platform, and our subscribers asked that I get this out ASAP, which we're doing today, a whistleblower by the name of Travis comes forward. Now, a little background on Travis. Travis is a former AFRICOM Air and Space Operations Center enlisted personnel member. He's within the Combat Operations Division during the time when the Benghazi attack occurred in September of 2012. As is outlined in this interview with Charles Woods and with Travis, our whistleblower, this is all about treason. Treason that goes all the way to the Oval Office with Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and a number of other members of the Obama administration. It's been covered up. It's been covered up since 2012. And the light of truth needs to be shed on it. We put some light of truth on this in our initial interview with Charles Woods. This is like a beacon. I ask that you take this information that's presented in this interview that we're releasing from our subscription platform and provide it to anyone and everyone you know. I ask that you also take the added step of calling the White House and ask them to reopen the Benghazi investigation. I also ask that you contact your congressmen and senators and ask them, and actually tell them, the investigation must be reopened, because this is about the future of our country and the future of the world. If individuals are allowed to allow 4 Americans to die and put dozens more in harm's way, it truly is treason. You can join us every Sunday on our radio show with great analysis and great guests. You can stream it live at davejanda.com, 2 to 5 Eastern every Sunday. You can join us here on our YouTube channel, Operation Freedom, and you can join us for additional information at davejanda.com, the platform. Significant amount of free information is uploaded on a regular basis, and we also have the subscription platform, 30 cents a day, where we have added guests, added interviews, added segments, one of which is this segment that you're going to see today. I thank you for your time. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to our Insider Insight Show. I am honored to have 2 guests with me who are incredibly courageous and patriots of the highest order. The first patriot you know already, my friend Charles Woods. His son Ty Woods was one of the 4 victims in Benghazi. Charles joined us several months ago. And I must say the feedback from our subscriber base about the interview we did with Charles was incredibly positive. In fact, you, the subscribers, didn't ask, but demanded that I do 2 things. 1, get the information out to the public, not just our subscriber base, but to the public, to our overall YouTube channel. And the other demand was to get Charles back ASAP. Well, we fulfilled both promises. We got the information out to the public through our YouTube channel, and I must say the response was overwhelming. In fact, a number of people stepped forward with information that they had actually tried to provide to others in the government and in our law enforcement agencies, and they were not willing to even speak to these individuals. And that brings me to our second guest, Travis. For security purposes, we are not going to use Travis's last name. I have confirmed Travis's identity, and I have confirmed Travis is who he states he is and where he was located the night, if you will, of September 11th, 2012, when the Benghazi attack occurred. A little background on Travis. He's a former AFRICOM Air and Space Operations Center enlisted personnel member. He was within the Combat Operations Division during the time when the Benghazi attack occurred in Libya on September 11th, 2012. Travis, welcome to our platform. Charles, welcome to our platform.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Charles, since the interview aired, you have been approached by a number of different individuals who have provided you even more information from the baseline amount of information you had, which was quite extensive to begin with. Educate our viewers on what has occurred since our last interview.
First of all, I'd just like to say I have forgiven everyone that's involved with the death of my son. I know where my son Ty is. I want to see him one of these days. And unless I forgive everyone, I won't be there. But the truth needs to come out because we have Americans every day that are placing their lives in jeopardy for the country that they love. And they need to know that if something happens, they will be rescued. Now, we have with us today Travis, and he was a member of the military that was working in the command center that was watching Benghazi happen in real time right in front of him. There are three important points, at least important to me. Number one is that there was an order to stand down. Apparently it was the State Department is in control. Do not rescue. The other point that's important to me is that there was a global command communication system that identified in real time every military asset that was available in the area. And that included several warships that were right off the coast of Benghazi that had the capability to do precision surgical strikes without doing collateral damage that could have knocked out the mortar that was chalked in before the terrorist attack that killed my son. And then finally, there was a rescue team that was in the air that was told to turn around before they were able to land at Benghazi. Now, I have in my hand a letter from Barack Obama, the President of the United States. He was gracious enough to send this to me. This is his signature. This is the body of the letter. And I'd like to read part of it.
Please do, Charles.
On the tragic day, I directed my national security team to do everything possible to respond to the attacks against our people and facilities in Benghazi. The United States government considered a range of options and deployed additional military capabilities. But as our military leaders have said, the military forces needed to carry out the type of operation you described were not close enough to have made a difference. Please know that my actions would have been the same if the attack had been against my own family. The sad truth is that the attacks happened so rapidly that U.S. forces could not arrive in time to prevent the loss of our brave Americans. I would like Travis to respond.
Travis, could you respond to that letter from Barack Obama, but also a number of different individuals, exclusive of yourself, have produced information and approached Charles with the information that he presented in those 3 points. Could you address those points as well as Barack Obama's letter?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to know was everything done that was possible.
Absolutely not. Not at all. As a matter of fact, we had assets that were nearby that could have easily gotten there and done something and been there. And then we could have retasked. We had drones nearby. Not all of them were armed, but they could have been retasked as well to the ones that were armed. And on top of that, we were told not to help them. And then also, after the fact, we were told not to follow them. We had eyes on. We knew where the people were. We were watching it as it happened on the screen. And we were told not to follow them after that. Why would you not follow someone who's attacking? I just don't get it. I don't have an answer for you of what their motivation was, but it's almost like it was a contrived effort because whenever this is from secondhand knowledge, some of my very best friends that I've ever had in my life, they were there to witness this to hear the stand down orders, from an officer that was telling them what had happened, right? And essentially, in the way the military works, you go through the chain of command. There's a procedure for when these things happen, and you go right to the top. You let the general know right away, the leadership staff, and also from there, there's a chain of command. The president would probably know right away, and then you go down the chain of command from there. Boom, boom, boom. So you call the first person. If they're not available for whatever reason, you go to the next person, and then they're going to be in control of the situation if they answer the phone. And it keeps going down, so on. And none of them answered the phone. And then whenever we took action without getting any feedback, then we were told to stand down and not save them. And I can tell you right now that every day where I worked in the seat I sat in, I had several units that gave me information every day, and one of them was a rescue team. They sent me what their weapon status was, whether or not somebody was sick, whether their aircraft were working. I knew that every single day, and they had to contact me and give me that information. And if I didn't get it in time, I had to call them and get it sent over to me. And I would ask them why, what's going on, and so on. And within the facility I worked too, there was also a rescue cell, personnel, PRCC, and their job is for these situations to save them. And so all of the elements are there to help, not only the assets there physically, but all of the procedures, and there's even a group of people that are dedicated for the situation to save them. And none of those people were used. We were told not to save them, not to follow them after the fact. Why? And we had them. We could have got them within hours. We could have had them within hours in custody, maybe some of them would have been killed, but we could have had them and figured out what had happened there.
Travis, it's been stated that there were eyes in the sky, if you will, surveillance drone, at least one, possibly more than one, over the facility. Do you believe that's the case?
There was at least one. I saw the feed, and I will never forget it, the circling for hours and hours and seeing the smoldering building. That's burnt into my memory forever. And I think that there was another drone nearby, because from what I understand, the people who went back after, they were getting information from an intel from above about that, because there was more going on than just that location where the first part happened.
And you had mentioned that there were other, in addition to personnel being able to get there within several hours, and as Charles established in our last interview, which is common knowledge, the movie, 13 hours, this attack, it wasn't a 15-minute deal. This was 13 hours this went on.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
So you mentioned,
I've never seen the movie, though.
You did mention, Travis, that it could have taken several hours to bring these personnel rescue teams in, but you also mentioned, I believe, that the drones could be retasked very quickly and could have been there even faster than military personnel could have gotten there. Am I wrong in that?
That's correct. And some of my good friends sat right next to me that did replanning. And there's even, like we talked about, there in the military, there is a procedure and there is a way to do everything, and it's all functional. Everything's done for a reason. And it's easy. And then I'll tell you too, over Africa, the airspace isn't that hard to work with because there aren't very many aircraft over it. So that's a non-issue, period, plain and simple. I mean, the worst case scenario you could have is a diplomatic problem. Worst case, someone could say, "Oh, we didn't appreciate that," but you know what? We've got American lives to save. I don't care. That's the way I look at it.
Charles, a number of other individuals, exclusive of Travis, have approached you since our interview was made public. Does what Travis just stated, based on the other information you had as baseline, but now with this added information of other patriots that have come forward, does that information that Travis just came forward with, does that surprise you at all?
No, because everyone's aware in the military that they have a policy, no one is ever left behind. That's the way that every military operation is equipped. They never leave anyone behind. They always rescue. You don't need to have a specific order to rescue. It's something that you do automatically unless someone higher up in the chain of command says do not rescue.
Now, Travis, you had mentioned that that night, it wasn't just one phone call that was needed to get somebody to start a response. That it appears, now tell me if I've heard this wrong, that multiple calls were made to multiple people over an extended period of time before somebody responded. Did I get that wrong?
No, that is absolutely correct. From my understanding, is because we got no response, we took action, and that's when we finally got a call back and said stand down.
Okay, now Travis, I grew up a doc. Okay, 32 years, right? The phone rings from the emergency room, and I'm on it within 10 seconds. Okay. Is it standard operating procedure that when an event like this is happening and you guys start making calls, that a bunch of these, I guess, generals and I don't know, colonels, lieutenants, is it standard operating procedure that they're not answering their phones?
No, that is not common at all. And even if they don't answer, there's somebody that's an admin that will receive the call. They always have somebody that's on staff, usually an officer that's there too, and then sometimes enlisted there to help. And there's somebody that's going to answer that call. Even in the places where they live, if they're not physically there, they have, well, I guess I can't say too much about that, but there's no conceivable way in my mind that this could have happened the way it did. And the fact that nobody answered the call, and then when we took action, that's when somebody said something. I don't know. It seems like a contrived effort and a foreknowledge to me, honestly, but I can only speculate that.
Travis, how long did it take between when you folks started making calls saying we got trouble, red alert, big trouble? How long did it take before those calls started and before you got somebody on the horn? Or not you, but your team.
That's right.
I mean, are we talking like an hour? What?
It had to have been before they responded. It was hours. It had to have been hours.
Multiple hours. So tell me if I'm wrong, but in medicine, if we have a critical patient coming in the emergency room, minutes matter. Sometimes seconds matter. I would think the same principle is true in a military operation like this, that seconds, minutes matter, yet for hours, when these people normally will answer in 10 seconds, for hours they're not responding?
I believe that the call to stand down came maybe quickly, but then any sort of action and communication took a lot longer after that too. And that's what blows my mind about it. Is because, like we talked about, there's a procedure for all of this. There's always somebody there, and that's how it works. And for some reason that day, no one was available to help. I mean, and then we're told to stand down when we took action. It doesn't make sense to me.
So,
Nothing does.
Charles, when you hear this, a number of people since our interview aired have come to you, have called you, have documented who they are at a level that you know they're not BSing you. Is this a similar scenario that has been painted to you by all those other people?
Basically, yes. And the thing is, up until now, we always had the missing link in the chain. Was there an order not to rescue? Why were the people in Benghazi left to die? Now we have people in the military that were in the command center that say, yes, there was an order, do not rescue. This is the missing link. This isn't just a bombshell. This is a nuclear bombshell.
I've waited a long time. I've waited so long, and I've tried all outlets to.
Well, let's talk about that right now, Travis, because there are a number. Travis, right now there are a number of people saying, "Wait a minute, this guy is legit, but he also is courageous, and he obviously has a soul for other people. Why didn't he try to speak to what? My goodness, there were several subcommittees in Congress looking at this. Why didn't he try to contact them? Why didn't he try to contact? I mean, when he got back stateside, why didn't he try to contact? I don't know, the FBI or something. Well, Travis, what have you internalized this for 7 years, or did you actually step forward? It's just that nobody wanted to hear it.
Yes, I got out when I got out. I got out of the military because of what happened. I figured that I'd get deployed and an IED would go off. Oh, coincidentally, and I'd be dead. I'm a loose end, right? So I got out and I waited some time, and the reason is because of, I got to be honest. I thought maybe the guilty parties were still around, and the moment I said anything, I would be killed. And so I waited until after President Trump was elected because I felt it was safe to come out now. So what I did was, shortly after he was elected, it was the spring, I went to a congressperson that was on the committee, and
the Benghazi committee that was investigating it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, I went to their office.
Yep.
I called, I emailed, and finally I got a response.
And what was the response? Welcome. We need to speak with you right away. What time can you get here? Correct? That was the response, correct?
Not even close. My response, the response I received was, that investigation is over. I will refer you to the Benghazi report. And I said, no, you don't understand. This isn't, no, you guys don't have this. This is, this is not there. You don't have it. And then I sounded concerned, obviously, and it was their chief of staff that called me. And they said, we're not interested in any new evidence or testimony. And then after that, I sounded very concerned. And they said, well, if you really feel you need to, go ahead and call the FBI. And at that point, the FBI was in turmoil, and I said, have you been watching the news? And so then, you know what I did? I did call the FBI. And what happened?
Oh, wait. I bet you either Peter Strzok or Lisa Page or Andrew McCabe, called you because, well, they just put the investigation, if you will, on President Trump to the side because this obviously is much more important, which it is. They obviously slid that to the side and immediately spoke to you, correct?
What I did was I called the FBI myself, and I told them that I have more information about Benghazi. I gave them my phone number, my address, all my information, and I said I'd like to meet with them. And they said they would not meet with me outside of the office there. And at that point, I know what was going on, and it was red flags. I thought to myself, if I go in there, they're going to lock me away forever on a process crime or something I said that. So So since then, the best part, like it's not the best part, it's the worst part. The worst part about this is that they never ever called me back. They never were concerned enough to ask me to come in and talk to them about it. So and that's been 2 years, over 2 years. And it's been 2 years and nobody, even to this day, has called me.
How about the media? Did you ever reach out to the what I call the bought off lamestream fake media?
Say again, sir?
Have you ever reached out, Travis, to after you were shut down by the FBI, shut down by Congress, the very committee that was investigating this? Did you ever reach out to the organization I call the bought off lamestream fake media to say, look, I got some information?
No, after that, it would be insane for me to do that. And at that time, the media was so controlled that it was all like the Mockingbird media, as people say. And I know this because where I worked and the things I did, we would have the news feeds from different locations, our home and away, and different locations, and we would be doing the opposite of what the news is saying, and I know it's the opposite, and I was like, who is giving them these reports? Who's doing this? And I know that it was a contrived effort by somebody. I couldn't tell you who, and I don't know why they would do things like that. So, and I know that at that point, if I got Congress telling me to get lost, and the FBI not caring or taking the initiative to talk to me after I took the initiative to talk to them, something's wrong here, and it would be very bad for me. My life would have been ruined, I assume, if I had gone to the mainstream media at that point.
Back in 2012, Charles and Travis, at first the House Intelligence Committee got involved, and there was a chairman of that committee by the name of Mike Rogers. Now, let's not confuse him with the head of the NSA, Admiral Mike Rogers. Two completely different animals. Okay, my mind, Admiral Rogers, Patriot, Congressman Rogers, not so much. He was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Now, let me just read something to you from someone I know by the name of Mike Krieger, who wrote this actually as far back as 2014. Until recently, Congressman Mike Rogers' wife, the guy who was started to investigate Benghazi for the House Intelligence Committee, until recently, Congressman Mike Rogers' wife was the president and CEO of the company that was contracted by the State Department to provide intelligence-based physical security services, and the company's name was Aegis, A-E-G-I-S. While this sort of crony capitalism is seen as business as usual in the cesspool that is D.C., the real crazy part of the story is that as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Rogers was charged with investigating the adequacy of security at the Benghazi compound prior to the September 11, 2012 terrorist attack. He goes on. Rogers' wife, Christy Clemens Rogers, was the president and CEO of the company, Aegis, that was contracted by the State Department to provide the security. Mrs. Rogers, until recently, served as president and CEO, the contractor to the United States Department of State for intelligence-based physical security services. Aegis, a British private military company with overseas offices in Afghanistan, Bahrain, Iraq, Kenya, Nepal, and the United States, won a $10 billion 5-year contract with the State Department to provide security for U.S. diplomatic posts around the world, including Benghazi. Congressman Rogers, who abruptly then announced his intention not to seek re-election, has been criticized for dragging his feet in the Benghazi investigation. You see, this is beyond a swamp, right? This is really a septic tank. Now, Charles, since our interview aired, a number of people have approached you similar to Travis.
That's correct.
Educate our viewers on some of that information that has been passed on to you by people you have verified were in the military, in the intelligence services, and have proven their positions at the time.
Well, the first comment I would like to make would be about the security detail at the embassy. To begin with, they had they had U.S. Marines providing security. Things got really, really bad there. I was told that on a threat level scale of 1 to 10, this was an 11. In other words, it was an attack, a murder that was waiting to happen. It was like hanging a piece of red meat out in front of a carnivore. The Marines, they were withdrawn as a security force, and they were replaced by Muslim terrorists that they did not even trust enough to give guns to. That was who they provided for security, even though the threat level was off the charts. So, to have a juicy, lucrative contract like that to provide unarmed Muslim terrorists to protect American lives is ridiculous. That amount of money could have been used for much better purposes than to line the pockets of a person that's elected supposedly to represent the American people. So that's about all I'd like to say.
Charles, when Ty and the other 3 American victims were brought home, you mentioned this in our last interview, and I refer people to that interview that's available on our website and also on YouTube. Charles, you were approached by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Leon Panetta, just to name a few. Hillary Clinton specifically told you that the cause of your son's death was a YouTube presentation, correct?
I keep a notebook in my pocket, and I've done that for years and years. I always joke, I keep my brains in my pocket. And after that, I wrote down exactly what she said, which was, I am going to have arrested the person that made the video who was responsible for the death of your son. Okay. I'll let people draw their own conclusions as to whether or not that was a truthful statement. People have always asked me, what did the president say? What did Hillary Clinton say? No one's ever asked me what the vice president, Joe Biden, says. And I mentioned this family afterwards, and they said, well, this is kind of off color, so you really shouldn't say it. But I think that I should say it.
Say it.
Okay. Our vice president, Joe Biden, came through the section where our family was twice. The first time he mentioned something like it's really hell having to lose family members. I lost a couple of family members and like that. And then he went and visited other people in the area out there at Andrews Air Force Base. And then he came towards me, and he was quite a distance away from me, 10, 15 feet away from me, and in a really loud voice. I thought he was drunk, quite frankly. He kind of said, did your son always have balls the size of cue balls? That was a crass comment that you do not make to someone. I was still in shock from finding out about the death of my son, which happened just right before that. That's not the way that it should have been. What went through my mind, this person is a clown. If something happens to number one, this person is going to be the president of the most powerful country in the world. I was shocked and amazed.
Now, when Barack Obama approached you, you had mentioned before that you've been in the room where there's a wow factor when people of significant power walk in, but in fact, he wasn't such a wow, was he?
Well, I mean, was my impression, basically. Came up, shook my hand, and like I said to other people, I've met powerful people before who do have that wow factor. This was just like shaking hands with a dead fish. And he couldn't look me in the eye. He had to look over my shoulder and kind of whimpered, I'm sorry.
Hillary Clinton.
Was he really sorry? No. Or was he one of the people that was responsible for the decision not to rescue, which led to the death of my son?
Maybe that's why he couldn't look you in the eye, Charles. And Charles, we've mentioned in your previous interview, you are a lawyer, attorney by training. you are, and you're never a retired judge. Once you're a judge, you're always a
Oh,
judge.
no,
it's
this
like
is
being,
an
it's like being a,
administrative
it's
life.
like being a general, Charles. Once you're a general, you're always a general. But my point is this: you practiced law for many years. You were a judge for years. Your role as a judge is determine who's telling you the truth and who's lying to you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That was my job. Thousands of witnesses every year. I had to decide who was telling the truth.
So,
And
witness Hillary
yeah.
Clinton, who walked up to you, was she
Well,
telling
yeah,
you
I
the
mean,
truth? Was she telling you the
yeah.
truth, or did she lie to you?
Well, when she said that, I mean, I knew she wasn't telling me the truth, but I didn't think it was any significance to it. I just thought, well, this is the way politicians happen to talk. And then later on, it blew up, and it was a big deal because obviously this was not a spontaneous attack because of a video protest. That mortar that killed my son, I was told, was chalked in before the terrorist attack even happened. You have to really be skilled in order to have the coordinates ahead of time for the target. So as soon as that mortar was fired, they knew that this was a coordinated, pre-planned terrorist attack.
Travis, with your knowledge base, do you believe this was a YouTube-based event, or do you believe this was a pre-planned event?
Oh, sorry. Yes, from what I understand, we would be briefed upon a certain groups and terrorist activities, and but it is highly compartmentalized, the specifics of it. For example, the names of the leaders and things like that. But what I can tell you is, I'm sorry, I missed the part you were saying. I was listening intently, and then I
The question was, do you believe that this was a YouTube-based event, or do you believe this was a pre-planned event, and do you believe that we had foreknowledge that an event was going to occur?
Oh yeah, I know for sure that we had foreknowledge. We absolutely had foreknowledge. Actually, we even knew the names of the people they were planning on attacking and everything. We knew about it before, and it was not a YouTube video at all. That's absurd. That's not even a possibility. That's not what happened. And until even to this day, nobody's been held to account for this, by the way. And that still rubs me the wrong way. Maybe someday the wheels of justice start to pick up. I'd like to see that personally.
I'm going to ask both of you the same question. Do you believe the end result of a dead ambassador and 3 other victims, Ty, Glenn Doherty, and Sean Smith? Do you believe, based on the knowledge you have at this point, do you believe that their deaths were, if you will, and I believe you mentioned this term earlier in the interview, Travis, but not, it was related to you actually that you mentioned. Do you believe this was tying up loose ends?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no mathematical way that could have worked out the way it did, and there's no way that could have happened. This was planned. I think there was foreknowledge. There had to have been foreknowledge. We already knew that there's going to be an attack, but there had to have been planning on what we're going to do when this happens, and so on. There was, and that even in of itself raises more questions. And then you think, okay, since they knew it was going to happen, and then they were going to have a plan for what to do after it happened, did they coordinate the actual attack? That makes me think that to myself. Did they somehow have a hand in this? I don't know, but...
Charles, same question.
I would like to respond. Benghazi was treason, and treason has no statute of limitations.
It was treason. That's the best way to describe it. Absolutely, treason. Where do we go from here? I'd like to say that I know that there are going to be people that recognize my voice that worked with me, and I really am going to encourage them right now to come forward. It's time. It's time now to come forward and tell the truth about this. Get it all out there, because we can't keep this lie going anymore. It was all a lie, all of it. It's all been a lie, and they fed us garbage the entire time, and the American people and the victims of it at Benghazi deserve that.
Charles, where do we go?
It's all in God's hands. And fortunately, we have a president of the United States that is not afraid of the powers that be. Hopefully, this video will get on his desk, and hopefully, he will take the appropriate action. I trust him that he will, because he is a man of honor.
The night of September 11, 2012, September 12, 2012, Ty Woods and Glenn Doherty left their safe house and fought their way over to the State Department annex. The ambassador was gone by that point. Sean Smith was dead at that point. But Ty and Glenn rescued 30 other Americans, got them back to the safe house, got them protected, went to the roof, and that's when the mortar hit while they were fighting. It's time, Charles, and it's time, Travis. You step forward.
Yes.
It's time for those 30. It's time for those 30 survivors to step forward.
I agree with you. I watched them on the tarmac walk single file onto the plane as they left after they were rescued from the safe house. They know what happened too. They have plenty of detail to fill this in, because none of this makes any sense, and I want to see some justice.
It's been said that one of the theories that it was a weapons running operation that went bad. That it was a weapons running operation run by the Obama administration, Hillary Clinton, and their point man was Ambassador Stevens, who ultimately in this weapons running operation of running weapons to al-Qaeda, then reversing the flow into Turkey. The last person he met with was a representative of Turkey, taking those arms from Turkey into Syria to weaponize an organization that we all know as ISIS. Stevens at one point got cold feet, started to speak to people outside the Obama-Clinton orbit, and that is when this event went down, and that is why, quote, loose ends needed to be tied up. Charles, do you believe that's conspiracy theory, or do you believe that is why 4 Americans died in Benghazi?
The ambassador and the others in Benghazi were engaged in illegal arms shipments. That's been established. Dead men do not talk. My life is not as important to me as the life of my son and my love for this country. They can do to me what they want. If something suspicious happens to me, people will know.
Travis?
I've got nothing else to say about that. You know, I with the weapons, I know more about it. I can't say.
No, we don't want to. We don't want you violating any issues with classified information. We do not want that.
Yes, it should have never happened. Should never happened. And then that, oh my gosh, another issue. There's so many things that screwed up things that happened during that time. In regards to ISIS, we could have stopped them in an instant. That could have been done. Look, for example, look how fast Trump took care of it. We had the place where I worked, we could destroy an entire country. That's what we did there. We destroyed people, places, and things.
You actually worked at a place. It was called the Wheel of Death, correct?
That's right. That's what I was told when I arrived there. It's not something you're going to find on a brochure, but
no.
Yeah, that's what we did. We destroyed Libya, Syria, and we did some other things too, and obviously we targeted people and things like that. But yeah, we could have got rid of ISIS, and also whenever SEAL Team 6 went down, we were briefed on that too, and none of that made any sense. And in my personal opinion, my humble opinion, I think that was a setup too. That had to have been a setup. There's no other way around it. There's no way around that. That is so, where they are and where they're going is so tight. I mean, there are only a handful of people that really know where they're going to be going and what they're doing. All right. We might know where they come to every once in a while if, it's just highly compartmentalized. And so the fact that they got shot down the way they did, and none of the stuff was normal that happened with it, none of it. And so what I think happened is something, for whatever reason, they knew something and they were taken out too. That's my opinion. I don't know what happened for sure.
Well, we've addressed that at great length in our platform with another great patriot, Charlie Strange, whose son Michael Strange was a member of SEAL Team 6 and died in that event in Afghanistan.
Here, I'd like to comment upon the retaliation that our government, unfortunately, has done to suppress the truth.
Go right ahead.
Right after Benghazi, then we had the issue of SEAL Team 6. The morning after SEAL Team 6 killed bin Laden for the second time, I told my family that I sure hope that Ty was not on SEAL Team 6, because I said they will not come back to the United States alive. I talked to a ranger that was on the ground at the village where this happened. The government story was that a ranger team was pinned down and emergency, get all of SEAL Team 6 on a helicopter to rescue. He said, we've been in that village many times before. We didn't want any more help. In fact, any more help would have caused us problems. What happened typically is that they bring in troops, the helicopter goes straight down to the ground really quick. Everyone in a matter of seconds goes out the back of the helicopter on the ramp, and then that helicopter takes off before it can be shot down. In this case, they took a Vietnam-era helicopter, literally the size of a school bus. That's a huge target. And they put that in the air. They didn't land it on the ground. They put it in the air knowing that there were enemy forces that could shoot that thing down. And instead of instantly having them go off the back of the ramp on the ground, it hovered in midair while I've never heard this term, hot roped it down. And that allowed it to be a sitting target, the size of a school bus. Obviously, it wasn't an accident that it was shot down, and all those members of SEAL Team 6 were dead men. And like I said before, dead men do not talk. We have a government in place right now that doesn't do those things, thanks to President Trump.
And that's our goal. The goal is, folks, for each and every one of you to network this information to anyone and everyone you know. Because what we saw from the first interview with Charles was that a number of people, including Travis, came forward. People who had tried to deliver information to government sources, law enforcement sources, actually some folks have come forward, the media sources, all of whom were pushed away. It's a different time and date now than it was even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Take this information, network it. You know where I am. You know where Charles is. You can always get in touch with us. Our goal is to bring the light of truth to this issue. Charles has some very pertinent and well-defined questions. He outlined them in our first interview. They need to be answered. Because if they're not answered, our country will never move forward. Charles, I'd like to thank you. Travis, I'd like to thank you for your courage, for your patriotism, for, as Charles, you mentioned last time, for being the next man up, because that is what you and Travis and all those individuals that have come to you, Charles, since our last interview, have done. The guy behind you, Charles, he's alive and well. And
I'm going to see him one of these days, and hopefully Ty's going to say, Dad, I'm proud of you. You did what I would have done.
And you know what? He's telling you that every day, Charles. His mission still goes on to this day. And you physically might not see him. But what I see is Ty Wood still has his arm around your shoulder, Dad.
Thanks.
And you know what? You will get those answers. And the people who are responsible will be held accountable. I thank both of you for your time, for your efforts, for your courage, for your patriotism. I thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. And our country and our world is much better off for everything you're doing. And I thank you. And as we sign off every segment, dream big. Actually, be like Charles Woods. Be like Ty Woods. Be like Travis. Dream big and dare to fail. Because when you do, the world becomes a much better place. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Thanks for joining us.